When you build a wildly successful business and impact an entire community, the transformation and the impact is felt for generations to come.
I feel like at the rate that things are coming, it's really going to eclipse those advisors sooner rather than later.
You know, as an advisor listening to this, you're not going to lose clients to AI. You're going to lose clients to an advisor that's using AI.
Holy smokes, it is going to be an exciting road ahead for sure.
Welcome to the Total Succession Show. I'm your host, Tyson Ray, joined by Kim Cochenour. We're glad you're here. Subscribe at totalsuccession.com/podcast and let each episode guide you closer to a confident, well-planned exit. Today's conversation just might be the nudge you need to start preparing for what's next.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Total Succession podcast. Today, we're continuing to tackle one of the biggest challenges in our profession, succession planning. This conversation is going to dig deep where our industry is headed and what that means for advisors and you listening about succession. Joining us today, I couldn't be more excited, is Ray Sclafani. Ray is the founder and CEO of ClientWise, and he's one of the leading voices on leadership, coaching, and succession for top advisors. Ray, welcome to the show. We've been looking forward to this conversation.
Well, thanks, Kim. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have Ray here. I had the pleasure of reaching certain levels of production in my career where I was invited to different conferences where here's Ray speaking about these very topics that we're going to talk about today. So we're excited to have him on.
So Ray, before we jump in case our listeners don't know who you are, can you please just share a little bit more about ClientWise and your background in this space?
Yeah, sure thing. So we are a company that's entering its 20th year of operations here at ClientWise. And I'm fortunate enough to lead a team of just about 50 professionals, including all of our coaches and our workshop facilitators and consultants and business valuation specialists. Prior to ClientWise, I spent 20 years in the asset management business, leading the distribution of asset management products. And today, we are specializing in building enduring firms, helping advisors and their team members develop those next generation leaders and really help them drive enterprise value, help them build a bigger impact, and lead what I think is the living legacy. So we're doing a lot of that work in the space, I think right in the wheelhouse of what you guys want to talk about today.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. And so I think what would be really helpful is let's kind of jump right into what you've been seeing recently. You work with some of the most successful advisory firms in the country. What's the current state of the industry from your perspective, and what are you really seeing right now with your clients?
Oh boy, what a big question.
I know. Pick a lane. You'll be okay to pick any lane with that.
Yeah,
our listeners will love it.
I don't know. We can go technology and AI. We can talk about cybersecurity. We can
Let's
talk
go
about
technology
growth.
and AI. I
Wow.
think that's a great topic. I'd love
Yeah.
to hear you on what you're seeing, what you're hearing from your clients.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It depends what channel the advisor's in. For some firms, like a Morgan Stanley, they've invested extraordinarily and are way ahead of the curve on AI, where there are other wirehouse competitors that are woefully behind. It appears that FINRA and others have not a clue yet the impact of what's really coming. And the RIA channel is in a lane where we've got clients that are developing, sidekick advisors, So I'm seeing at the base level, advisors using Zoom and Microsoft Teams, Jump AI, to capture notes and capture some of the content coming out of meetings and auto sending emails to clients following meetings. I feel really bad for the Bill Good people and what was the tape recorder thing?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
You might be dating you might date yourself a little there with.
I'm dating.
the
I've been at
gorilla.
this a while, Tyson. Yeah, guerrilla marketing and copy talk with the copy talk.
Oh
people.
yeah,
like
my.
like wonk wonk wonk, game over, right?
Yeah.
We're also seeing a lot of engagement around operational efficiencies. Teams that are getting really good at that. But where I think the technology is headed, you see Holistaplan on tax returns, you see Vanilla on estate planning docs. I mean, real advisors are using real technology today to enhance the quality of advice being delivered to clients. I'll embarrass myself here a second. I got a call from what I thought was a banker. It was a 7-minute conversation. 4 minutes into the conversation, I thought, man, I think this is a robot. And
No.
I said, I just kind of played along a little bit. 3 more minutes went by, and I said, "Hey, by the way, am I talking to a human?" And Sarah said, "Oh, no, I'm an generative AI agent, but let me connect you to Rob, my human partner." And
Get
I'm
out.
telling you, Kim, it wasn't like boom. It was an immediate shift. It wasn't like hold and I was transferred to somebody. Rob just immediately came on the phone and we started in this conversation. Well,
Wow.
he was effectively, they were looking to see if I was interested in selling my company and blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
It was a banker call and it was the standard banking call. So like that really was impressive. And I think I'm a pretty savvy
You
listener
are.
and I caught it right away. And, but I played along because I was curious how it worked. Last year, we had a client who, a 17-year veteran, an amazing advisor, steeped in, doing the right thing and working with clients, ended up inadvertently wiring $2 million to a fraudulent account
Mm.
because they did the voice recognition. They had a 23-minute conversation. It was a robot.
Mm.
So like, why do I bring all that up? The robots are going to get better. They're going to get faster.
Mhm.
For $500, you can do a whole video gig, pulling right off YouTube how to
Yep.
do that. So there's more of this coming. Advisors, the ones who seem to be embracing the idea of, okay, how do we use the technology to help efficiently serve clients better? How do we use the technology in areas where, hey, to know the tax code, you can load all that up, right?
Yeah.
And you can get probably better advice by leveraging some of that technology. What I think will for the industry, what's going to happen on the AI front is it will expose the good advisors who are really builders of trust and
Mhm.
partnership with families, and that will only be amplified.
Huh.
The aid of the AI, the aid of the technology will really make a positive difference in many firms. And you're going to see an expansion of growth for firms being able to serve advisors, being able to serve more clients in the future if they play the cards right. For others, there are dinosaurs roaming the earth, and they'll just slowly fade away, and their books will just die, and it'll be a sad state of affairs. But we'll get into that because that's some of the succession talk too. But that's my quick take on AI.
Yeah, I don't know where I heard this from or if I came up with it myself. It's one of those great things, right? Must have got it from
Right.
somebody else. But it was basically, as an advisor listening to this, you're not going to lose clients to AI. You're going to lose clients to an advisor that's using AI.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And for ourselves, after looking at a couple different things, we've adopted Jump, and within our team, they've voiced the fact that it's saving them at least an hour on the front end and an hour on the back end of every appointment they have. So that the amount of productivity that can help create,
Oh, the gains are great.
it's unbelievable. Yeah.
So I think, Ray, what will really resonate with listeners is that it will really expose the great advisors, the great builders of their business, instead of being the ostrich and sticking their head in the sand, or the dinosaur that's still roaming the earth, and they're not really willing to adopt that. So it seems like the challenges that advisors are facing that they didn't really have 5 years ago, I feel like you had an easier time back then to kind of avoid some of the technology. I feel like at the rate that things are coming, it's really going to eclipse those advisors sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no doubt. I think for advisors that are recognizing, hey, I got to get up to speed. I don't have Chat GPT. I don't know what a prompt is. I
Mm.
don't know where to begin. Is it Jump AI? Is it something else? I would encourage everybody, a shout out to my good friend Michael Kitsis. He's
It's
running an AI
phenomenal.
conference that's coming up. I also a shout out to Joel Bruckenstein and the T3 conference. There are plenty of resources if advisors want to lean in. The CEO of Jump, I interviewed on one of my podcasts with Mark Hurley,
Yeah,
and he
Spencer, and
did,
that was a great episode.
yeah, he did a great job. So, Financial Advisor magazine and contrasting viewpoints. Like, I would go back and listen to what Jeff has to say. I think his firm is on the cutting edge, and the technology that's coming and
Mhm.
compounding, Jump is only going to get remarkably better in the next 6 months and 12 months.
Yeah.
And advisors will be able to just jump on the train, no pun intended, and just ride it, because
Yeah.
somebody else is putting the money in and the thought into how to build and construct something that could be really useful for their teams.
And we also think in this technology age with the AI, the advisors that can harness the client relationship, because all of a sudden interacting with people and having relationship and experiences that technology may help schedule and may help coordinate, but the fact that the value add as I think it's always been is going to be that much more of that connection with the person. That's what the advisors are going to be able to bring to the table, and AI is just going to leverage the doing of the advisor job in some
Yeah,
regards.
I think that's right. And how that advisor connects to the next generation of client and the use of technology to do so will be an aid in building trust and building those relationships as well. You don't want to look like you don't know what's going on. And
Right.
your clients' heirs, their kids, their grandkids, like they're paying attention. They don't want to work with mommy and daddy's broker, advisor, agent. They want to work with somebody that's on the cutting edge of knowing what's going on. So you gotta embrace that if you're going to build an enduring firm.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like the note-taking piece of any type of AI is just the tip of the iceberg. It's going to become like table stakes here in the future. So, as you're thinking about succession planning, is is the kind of this challenge of AI kind of rushing into this space, is that making succession planning a little bit more urgent for some of the industry?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know if AI will shift advisors enough to accelerate.
Mm,
Here's a different perspective. This is what comes to mind, Kim, when you ask the question. The Royal Commission in Australia made massive changes a few years ago, and I'll put it in U.S. terms. They effectively asked every advisor over a certain age to basically go back and take what we would call a Series 7 again. So imagine being in the business for
okay.
30 or 40 years and somebody says, hey, you're going to have to retest your securities exams. Hey, by the way, you're going to have to publish your fee, annual fee on your statements in a certain size font in the upper right-hand corner, exactly the same across the industry. Whoa, all of a sudden, like, who moved my cheese?
No kidding.
The advisors
Love
had,
that book.
right? Love that book. What a wake-up call for those
Mhm.
and wiped out a whole lot of advisors in the
Wow.
industry. Over the next 10 years, it's estimated that 38% of advisors, representing, by the way, 40% of client assets, are expected to exit the business. Now, I've been at this long enough. You all have as well. We've been saying advisors are going to retire for a long time. I think we should go long on oxygen tanks. Most advisors are going to die at their desks. I think the fees, the fee on AUM is a great game of subscription.
Mm,
And if you stop and think about how many subscription accounts you have, Netflix, the car wash, Apple One, just gym membership, right? This business is a great business. We are blessed to be in a business where you don't actually have to ask the client every quarter to write a check. You don't have
mm.
to publish the annual statement. You're not being asked to retest for your Series 7 exam. You're able to collect a fee. It's deducted from the account. And, the clients actually don't pay a lot of attention to that. They just build the relationship with the advisor and believe they're being served. So, I don't know that there's going to be a big push that's going to force advisors out the door, especially considering, how remuneration works in our business. I think that's the purse strings of it all. I think there's the heartstrings of it, Kim, in
Mm,
answering your question that really comes to mind. So at ClientWise, we believe strongly in the nobility of this great profession. When
mhm.
an advisor makes the difference, as you guys have, in the lives of just one family, the ripple effect that's felt multi-generationally is transformative. And when you build a wildly successful business and impact an entire community, the transformation and the impact is felt for generations to come. And so that's the heartstrings of it all. I've been at this with advisors for several decades plus, and I've seen only really, really good happening between advisors and clients. I mean, you get occasionally, that thief, you get a Bernie Madoff every now and then. And unfortunately, our industry gets framed from time to time, as being nefarious and all that. But I don't think that's not mainstream. That's not norm. And so I think what's really going to get advisors to think about succession and really start to plan. This is the great irony of our industry, is we're all a bunch of planners, and the data tells us without a plan. Only, according to Barron's, only 74% of top advisors say they actually have a successor they can name. So there's still a lot of work to be done. And I think it's the heartstrings when advisors sit down and really think about the promises they've made to their clients, either directly or indirectly, that they'll be there with them through life transition. I think when they really pay attention to the fiduciary responsibility, they pay attention to the deep care they have for the families they serve, the time to prepare and starting to think about not just continuity, disability or death, but the desire to retire. That's the succession piece, being orderly and intentional about that. The best advisors are thinking about it. They're working on it. I don't think it'll be a black swan-y kind of event that'll force people to do anything like AI or something else. I think it'll be the heartstrings of advisors that deeply care about their clients and know it's in the best interest to prepare and to begin early and to be consistent. And if they don't have the ability to do that, then they find an alternative, whether it's a merger, an acquisition, a sale of some kind. They'll internally or externally, they'll start preparing if they're not building it themselves.
Makes sense. Well, and I think the shift I kind of tease us up to kind of actually shift into the approach of succession, because we've seen a lot happen in the last 5 years, and just how with PE entering the space, a lot of the larger aggregators or integrators out there being a little bit more aggressive about capturing some of these high functioning practices. So I'd love to kind of talk about some trends you're seeing there. So you work with top advisors. What are you seeing from your top firms in regards to succession planning? How are they approaching it?
All over the board. Everybody's in a different state. We work with firms that are the $20 billion plus, and the leadership succession and the orderly transition of responsibilities, is a decade plus journey of developing, and it doesn't ever stop. So much bigger firms look really, really different than, the firms at 250 million to $1 billion in assets, doing a couple of million in revenue to 10 million in revenue. Those businesses look really, really different.
Yeah.
I think there's an important decision that advisors probably want to think about. And I use 5 years as a marker. That if they're thinking about some kind of transition, by the way, I don't mean like full retirement. That word retirement is kind of a weird word. The word retire means like to put down. I actually think as advisors get more experience and are later in their careers, they possess a tremendous amount of wisdom about the capital markets, about people. There's a great book, Strength to Strength, that I would recommend, right? Really, really good thinking about how do you use your skill set and your wisdom in different ways. So I think succession, the way we coach advisors to think about succession, it's really to think about it from the perspective that there's not a termination date to think about, but I call it a freedom date. What's the date that you want to circle on the calendar that you are prepared, that your team is prepared, your clients are prepared, and it gives you the total freedom to choose a role on the team with a set of responsibilities, knowing that the clients can be cared for, even if you're not first chair advisor, that the business can grow, even if you're not its primary rainmaker, that you've got a good set of leaders who understand how to run the business and to think strategically and know how to take risk and how to invest wisely. And so we think of it as a freedom date. What is that date on the calendar? In 5 years, if you've got, more than 5 years to your freedom date, then there are a different set of activities that you can think about. You probably have a little longer runway to build a team, to test and learn. to transition client relationships, to build a bench of lead advisors. And for those who have less than 5 years, it's probably going to be a different set of decisions. You're either going to need to do some acqui-hire or some serious recruiting of talent into your organization if you don't have it already. You can't microwave the process. And remember my good friend Mark Tibersian, who's been a mentor of mine for a very long time, almost 2 decades now, said to me many, many years ago, and I think it was a wise statement, it takes about 5 to 7 years to successfully develop the next generation. And the sign of every great leader is somebody who can develop somebody who can develop somebody. And so if you've got less than 5 years, you may be running out of runway. Now, if you've got less than 5 years, but you've had, a team of, 3 or 4 or 5 people working with you for 8 to 10 years or more, well, you can accelerate the process. You've got to do it with intention. But if you don't have that kind of team, then you got to probably consider some off-ramp and some other opportunities. The other thing Mark taught me that has shifted for me a bit, it used to be, he would say to me, that it takes 2 to 3 to replace a controlling owner-founder. And I think that was true back in the day. In today's state, I think it's at least 3 or more. And the reason is these businesses have gotten more complex. The services provided to the clients have expanded. The needs of the clients are growing. The ability to connect with next generation requires a different type of advisor. So, when it comes to financial management, running the P&L and running the books and making decisions as a leader, the compliance oversight is more, not less. The technology stack, is more complicated. It's more, not less. The operations flow, all of it just requires, I think, a bigger team, more people. And that's the unintended consequence with success. When you're able to attract and retain clients, you fortunately or unfortunately have to begin thinking about building a team.
Like, Tyson, you probably have a lot you can agree with, because I've heard you over the last 5+ years working together, talking through the pains of planning and growing a team to replace you.
Yeah. And then the fact that, it takes 5 to 7 years to develop that next leader once you actually have the right person to develop, because then there's a little bit of a runway there because you might not hire perfectly every time. And in fact, some of you if you're listening to this, you might have had the wound of you hired the wrong person. And so you just don't want to do it again. Or you're listening to this and you're asking yourself, it's the constant burden of the urgent crowds out the important. Meaning you're so focused on the client, the day-to-day, and the next appointment, and the next prospect, and the growing it, that time just flies by, and you're waking up, and the more you put off, because part of succession, if you want to die at your desk, is making sure you're retaining that next generation, and part of that comes with succession, ownership, skin in the game, retention opportunities for these people to feel like they want to be invested in it. But if you don't have that conversation early, I can think of a top advisor that Ray, we both know, that I just won't name, but he went to go, yep, I'm going to start selling this to my team, because that was his plan in the back of his head. He never told the team that. And then when he went to the team, they didn't want to buy it for what it had been growing, because they felt like they were part of it. And just these conflicts, it's like relationships. It's all about expectations, and the more you start communicating that, and more you start working towards that as part of the success criteria of your business, the more successful your business can be, and you can exit on your terms, whatever those are.
Yeah. I will say though, I agree with you. I do think that advisors need to be, at least we've seen, when they're more clear about what they want, they're able to be in a better position to have those conversations with their team. In fact, I would discourage anybody from jumping into, a conversation with somebody on their team about acquiring, shares. You can only do 3 things with your shares. You can sell them at fair market value, you can discount them, and you can gift them. And if you're not clear, hey, what do I want to do with the shares? What is my schedule? What is my timeline? What are my own personal goals? Many advisors have a lot of blood, sweat, and tears as an entrepreneur baked into, that business. And, you think doing your own homework first, knowing what is the business worth? What are the drivers of enterprise value? What is the average age of the clients we serve? How many next generation clients have we connected to? Like you got to do your homework before you get into it, and then start to build a game plan. Like, what do you want for the business? How do you want clients served in the future? Tyson, you reminded me of a good story. There was an advisor in our Business Builders Academy. We have cohort groups of about 25 to 30 advisors that meet every 90 days. And there was a group, it was a super ensemble group, multiple member-owned firms. Everybody in the room was north of $1 billion in assets under management. Everybody in the room was north of $10 million in revenue. And there was an advisor, believe it or not, somehow he had made it to 10 million in revenues, and he was like a 90% owner in the firm, and he had a 10% partner, and he was ready to add a third partner, and it was going to be his chief of operations. And we're sitting in the workshop, and I'm having everybody do what we call a success and succession exercise. And they're in the middle of doing this exercise, and I won't use this gal's real name. Valerie turned to Joe and said, listen, I appreciate the consideration. I really appreciate the opportunity to be considered as an owner, but there's no way I'm going to buy shares. There's no way I want the responsibility. And, he looked at her like, what? That's been my plan all along. Like, who wouldn't want to own this company? And she says to him, and they were both kind of emotional in that moment.
Sure.
And she said, look, my husband says, like, I've got a lot at stake here. My salary is here. We have a big concentration of risk with the company. We're wanting to get pregnant and have kids. We're buying a house right now. I don't have the capital. I kind of feel inadequate about whether, I would be a good leader. Like, whoa, that was the first conversation you're going to have with somebody? That's not the right way to do that.
No.
And so he learned pretty quickly that's not the way to do that, and and made some shifts, and frankly, it opened up a much larger conversation, because this is the sign of a great leader. This gal, Valerie, to use a different name, she said, look, I think there are other people in the organization that need to be ahead of me. She said, look, what you really need are people who are better rainmakers. I'm not a rainmaker. I don't drive revenue for the firm, and really the next group of leaders need to know how to grow the firm. And I think we're missing out if we don't think that way. And it was really great leadership. And in that moment, they realized they had 3 other people they should probably be having that conversation with. So anyway, there's a whole lot that goes into that, but the distribution of equity is a big consideration.
Yeah. Wow. That goes to show what a great opportunity it is for the leader and their team to actually make the time for that conversation instead of let the urgent crowd out the important. And I guess from your Business Builders Academy, that's you're setting aside that time to make sure that that doesn't get lost in the rush and flow of running a successful firm.
Yeah, the Business Builders Academy is really built for those who want to grow and build an enduring firm, whether they're single member firms or they're multiple member owned firms. There's different tracks, different curriculum, and then we complement that with executive leadership coaching, and then complement that with next generation leadership program. That's a year-long program, and we also have a success and succession program, which is a year-long program for those that are serious about that work and doing that work and getting that game plan in place. So it takes on lots of forms in every business. Just when you think you've seen the exact model of perfect, there's another level of creation that advisors think of. But going back to something you said earlier, I think there's a big flow. I mean, there's a reason why private equity has camped. There's a reason why now we're not only seeing private equity, we're seeing foundations, endowments, we're seeing sovereign debt, Abu Dhabi coming in, investment authority in Fisher and others in the marketplace. You're seeing capital stacks restack and firms now on their second and third round of PE.
Yeah.
This is a great business.
Well, it's
Like,
your subscriptions. That's your
right?
Yep.
That's it. And has there ever been a better time to be in financial services? I mean, Harry Dent was right. I'm going to date myself, and hopefully somebody listening to this podcast is laughing now. Like,
Well, guerrilla
Harry Dent.
marketing. I mean, you're going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pulling all the arrows out of the quiver here. But like, look, demographics is tells a big story. And so, like, if you're listening to this and you're a founder, controlling owner in their mid to late 50s, early 60s, like, what a great time to pitch the 30 and 40-year-old on wanting to be an investor in the wealth space. I mean, this is an exciting time. I don't believe the headlines, 85 to 105 trillion in assets being transferred between now and 2045. I'm probably the only knucklehead in the country that doesn't think that. But, with clients aging and the cost of healthcare and long-term care rising, and I mean, just ask any advisor, have you had a client buy a house for their kid in the last 24 months? Have you had a client, buy their second or third home in the last 24 months? Have you had a client go on this wild, crazy vacation to Iceland, in the last 12 months? The answer is yes. They're spending their money.
Yeah.
So even if you don't believe the headlines, I don't believe them in their full $105 trillion kind of fat number, but you do believe in demographics and you do believe in the wealth transfer. Holy smokes, what an opportunity to be 35, 45 years of age in this business. It is going to be an exciting road ahead for sure.
Yeah, and with the 38 that are either going to die at their desk or transition into retirement with 40% of the assets, you don't have to go be acquired to participate in the fact that all of these clients aren't necessarily making that decision on who that owner is, that this wealth transfer puts in play assets in motion, or clients seeking an advisor that's maybe more local, or an advisor, to your point, that's more savvy with technology. That it's just it is a great time to be in this business. And I also think some of these PE companies, and I had to learn this lesson myself, that they're not counting on the advisor doing the math, because they're buying your revenues. So if you want that much money, you can just go to the bank and get a debt and take 70% of your revenues and pay the note, but versus just keeping that cash flow. And so I think sometimes one of the best succession plans is building the team in the legacy firm or your enduring firm, is your point. But it needs to be part of that business plan, because there is definitely a human element to succession, both for the founder and the team, but also for the client.
That's right. We don't want to lose sight of the client in all of this. I think that's right, Tyson. There's a next wave coming of M&A in our space. Some estimate it's between $1 trillion and $2 trillion sitting on the sidelines that private equity is looking to invest. And so they're big numbers, right? That's not going to stop. That wave is going to continue. You'll see, I mean, when you see the investors showing up institutionally today, you wouldn't have seen that 15 years ago in this space. But the next wave I think that's coming is the local M&A, the belly-to-belly kind of transactions, the inside some of the custodians and broker-dealers. You go to Schwab Impact, you're starting to see a lot of advisors who maybe didn't know each other, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, are looking around to see if we merge forces, could there be a good opportunity to serve clients in perpetuity together? What does your team look like? What does your team look like? I think those local transactions, in some cases, those firms are under $250 million in assets. Private equity may have a difficult time rolling up, a bunch of those. So I think there's going to be a different level of transactions that transpire in the next 5 years. And those advisors that are in the M&A game, who have the capacity to do M&A, and I just want to emphasize that point. It's not something you dabble in. We do a fair amount of work in helping advisors think through a merger. We call it the merger maximizer coaching. We do not collect success fees. That's not the game we're in. We're in the game of helping advisors put good firms together to serve clients more effectively and build something that's long lasting. But the advisor teams coming together, maybe at a local level or even on a national level, we're seeing some firms get a little more proactive about that and starting to enter the space. in places where PE doesn't want to play. So that's something I think that's coming. That's going to be the next wave of what we may see here.
Well, and the industry has such a gap. I'm of the opinion that I came into the industry as it was finishing its what I would have called roll up, right? The broker dealers just participating in some extent coming before the financial crisis and coming out of the tech bubble. When you had before the tech bubble, the advisor was the only source of information, only source to place a trade. It was and that changed, and so you had this huge consolidation. And what I think you're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years is effectively the old regional firms bubble back up in teaming up and rolling resources together and creating efficiencies that had been the business for decades.
Well, that's right. You if you go back a ways and see now you're dating yourself.
I'm dating
too,
myself.
Tyson.
Yeah, back when
that
I had
was
hair.
well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. I like that. Yeah, I mean, look, there was a Mr. Merrill, a Mr. Pierce, a Mr. Fenner, a Mr. Smith, right? A Mr. Morgan, a Mr. Dean, a Mr. Witter. You had a Kidder Peabody, Janie Montgomery. You go back in time, Wachovia. Look at Wells Fargo today, right there. A.G. Edwards. I mean, you go back Prudential. You go back in time, and you look there. The consolidation that we saw in the BD land, you're starting to see with Wealth Enhancement Group, Merit Financial, Mariner, Creative Planning, Lido, Mercer. You're seeing a number of firms do the same sort of structure. The question that I think many are asking is how will these firms unify their value proposition so it's not a land of the misfit toys, coming together, bolted together, but like that kind of integration is going to be essential for firms that are committed to serving clients and committed to building enterprise value. The firms that sort of allow everybody to do their own thing and to remain the silo, I think will continue to struggle to build the scale that you describe and to have the impact. And that's where teams need to get, and these firms want to get really aligned around a unified strategy in serving clients. That's where the value creation lies. And so if anybody's thinking, hey, I'm under 5 years, I'm out of gas, I don't have the capability, I don't know where to begin building a team, I can't microwave it, maybe I should just merge into another firm. Doing the work to determine whether your vision of serving clients in the future is going to align with the vision that the firm that might be acquiring or merging you in, you got to want to make sure you're signing up for what you're signing up for. And all too often we see firms merge and it's like, whoa, surprise. I didn't know we were going to do it this way. And that poses a problem for some. So doing that due diligence, I think, is essential, especially in the next wave of what we're seeing on the roll-ups and the regionals. Tyson, I think that's right.
Yeah. Well, and truthfully, for the visionary, they are usually a quick start. And the idea of finding somebody else like, oh, this will be great. They're the eternal optimist. They have a lot of energy and excitement for something new, but they need to have someone in their corner to help them run those additional steps 2 through 9 to get them through the whole vetting process. Because you said, Ray, there's a lot of options out there and everyone's offering something different. But if you're not values aligned, you're going to get into that as an owner of your company, where you take some of those chips off the table and you lose some of that autonomy, or you let go of some of the things that you might not be willing to let go of. And you and yourself and your clients are all going to be in a really tough spot. And if you have the heart work and you've actually got to that freedom date in mind, and you're not actually feeling that freedom and you're actually struggling with it, it's not going to feel like the succession you were planning it to feel like.
That's right. It's funny, about 2 years ago, I was at a conference and one of our clients was there, and we were having a conversation, and there were 2 equity owners. They were each 50-50 in the business, and they were young in their, I'd say, late 30s. One was 38, one was 41. And one of the partners said to me, hey, Ray, what's your opinion on if we merge with another firm that we get to keep our name? And I said, well, that's an interesting question, because Barron's has done a fair amount of research around this. Years ago, there was a big question should advisors, do the clients care about the name of the firm? ABC Wealth Management, or Sclafani, Ray, Cochenour, I didn't say
Make
that
our own
right.
name.
Okay, yeah. So do we want to do that? And it was a really interesting conversation. And so we're talking about it. And I'm like, man, I don't think the clients really care much. They care about whether you care about them and their family and the quality of advice they're getting. And anyway, his partner was looking at me and he's like shaking his head like, uh-oh, because that's not what my
You
partner
just
thinks.
stepped on it, right?
Yeah. And so, differing opinion. By the way, I'm perfectly fine being wrong. Like, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
that makes the world tick, right? So I
Yeah.
totally welcomed. And I go, what do you think? And he goes, oh no, we've tattooed, the name of our company on our arm and we ain't changing it. And if we're going to merge with another company, that's it. We're not doing it if they don't take our name, because we've burned the boats and that's what we think. Well, let me roll the tape forward. A year goes by and I get a call and the other partner says, yeah, we're breaking up.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, 54% of teams break up in the U.S. In wealth advising space. That's an interesting statistic, more than marriages in the U.S., unfortunately. And I said, so tell me, why are you guys breaking up? He goes, well, he said, we had a differing opinion about the name convention of our company. He said, I saw an ability to merge with another firm, a firm larger than us, but with older, more senior advisors. And we were going to be about 65% the size of the firm we were being acquired by. They required us to keep their name, and we were going to get an opportunity to do a 50-50 equity swap cash and convert. And we were going to end up with shares that were more highly valued than our own shares because of the quality of the business and what they'd built. And it was a great succession opportunity for us. It was like it was an acqui-hire where we were being acquired for the talent. He goes, what a great opportunity for me to step into an organization that was well-established, well-heeled, great clients, and I could move into a leadership position and grow a bigger business. He didn't want anything to do with it because the name convention. So there's kind of the crazy, I've seen crazy reasons, but you know what, for that professional, that was his reason. And he's now running a smaller firm and looking for another partner because he doesn't want to grow it alone. So succession takes on all kinds of crazy forms.
You will find out where you have your stakes in the ground.
Totally. If you do the due diligence, it took them a year to sort through all that.
Yeah. Well, and that touches really, I think, on the important side of helping advisors and leaders understanding where their emotional stakes are in the ground and that some things they will have to let go of. But so, Ray, I think it'd be helpful as some of your coaching that you do with advisors is that their identity can often lead to all the things that they do or all the things that they've done. But if you're building a legacy firm, your identity needs to shift. And there's an emotional side of that, of letting go of some of that. But how do you help them kind of work through that or reshape their identity in this transition of building a legacy firm?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Wow. There's a lot of different ways to go with that question.
Pick your favorite.
There was an advisor in Florida who said to me last year, he said, Ray, my wife doesn't want me to come home. 5 days a week, I need to go do something. And this is a true story, by the way. He says, I can't play golf 5 days a week.
Yep.
And he says, so I need something to do. And now this guy had done a really good job at building his team and building succession. But what he didn't have was purpose with what he really wanted to do. And, if you read, I'm going to shout out to Mitch Anthony, who's one of my all-time favorites. In his latest book, The New Retire Mentality, I think it's in its 5th or 6th edition now. I think it's 5th edition. Right. So if you're not hooked, great Audible book, by the way, if anybody's an Audible, the first chapter, you'll be totally hooked. He talks about the history of where 65 came from. we pick 65 as this retirement date because most people died at 40.
Yeah.
And so there was like, no chance of getting to 65. And here we have, people obviously living longer. But I think what's really important is that advisors do the work to think about what's next and what are their real passions. Where do they want to give back and be a servant to others and pay it forward? And it's interesting. They find themselves in a lot of boats that their clients are in. And I've seen advisors do some amazing things. One of the advisors we coach, we helped him. He was figure out like what he enjoyed the most, and it was photography. And he formed like a group of people who love to shoot photos, and he hired a Nat Geographic photographer and hitched a ride, and they travel
wow.
twice a year. And he takes clients that he sourced, that he advised. He no longer advises. He sold the business, but now he's like an ambassador to the firm, and he's like chairman of the board, and he's out, entertaining clients, and they're bringing friends. He's like a rainmaker extraordinaire, sending all kinds of great clients back to the team that he sold the business to.
What a gift.
Like, what a gift, right? There's another advisor. He's done some beautiful work. In fact, I was talking to Chip Rome at the Tiburon Strategic Advisor Conference, and they do, if those that are not familiar and looking for something really powerful to do, they go down to Mexico and build homes for the homeless. And the advisor I was talking to at the conference with Chip was describing, how it's really filled his calendar, and he just loves making a difference, so much so that it's helped him, plug into a whole community of people that he's helping in new and different ways build homes, in Mexico, actually. And so I think, Kim, it's all about helping people get clear about what they want their future to be and how they want to spend their time. And where they can make a really big difference. And so at ClientWise, we call this the outcome frame. It's a series of 8 simple questions that aren't so simple, that require some deep introspection about what they want for their future, what having that will do for them, what it looks like when it shows up, what the context is, what capabilities they have, what capabilities they need. So there's some individual work that's really powerful. We take advisors who do have their next gen identified through a process where the founder controlling owner is like on one track on day one, and the next gen is on one track on day one, and they're really looking through the lens of the into the future from the seat with which they sit. Now, it's very different if you're a next gen professional than if you're somebody thinking about selling the business and succession. And then in day 2, we have what's called the merge, where they come together and they're like, hey, here's what I see for the future. Hey, what do you see for the future? And it's always fun. You take them through the exact same process with different perspectives and merge it together. And what a powerful transformation. What we find is most individuals are really great planners and know how to do this work. They just haven't had a construct with which to think through it. And so we are effective in helping them do that in the Success and Succession program. And really, if they just want a place to begin working individually with a coach, not a therapist, but a coach at ClientWise, that's the work that we do, is really help them build the constructs for themselves so they're able to really design a pathway forward and frame the future that's going to bring them great joy in a sustainable way. And it's fun work. It's very, very interesting work. And it's different work than our business builder work, which is enterprise value driven, organic growth, new client acquisition. There's a whole nother world, but the succession folks, that's a very specific task and set of responsibilities that go into that.
Yeah. Well, and so Ray, we could go on and on. I feel like the conversation around succession is so deep and so wide. But as we're kind of wrapping up today, we want to make sure that for those who are listening, you have some direction. Our goal is to give you something to do, and kind of some of those next steps. It sounds like there's a lot of amazing resources at ClientWise. And so we'll make sure that we link your LinkedIn profile here for listeners to connect to, the ClientWise website, any of the books and podcasts that you've shared on here, just to kind of get those hungry listeners some direction. But I'd love for you to kind of leave our listeners with a piece of advice that if they're kind of on the fence about their whole succession planning and they haven't even really started it yet, or they've been kind of waiting to do that, what would you do to nudge them in the right direction of taking the step and making the time for this for their business?
That's a good question. I would bring awareness to the fact that if they haven't had clients come to them yet and ask, what do I do if you're not here? Their clients are thinking it. And like every good fiduciary, put the client first. Be ClientWise. Really put others ahead of self and begin thinking about what you want for your team, what you want for your clients before you step away. And imagine a role that's going to bring you a lot of joy, either engaged in the business, not engaged in the business, or doing something else. And if you need a partner to help you think through that and to do that work, we'd be honored to help.
That's great. Thank you for that.
So if I'm listening to this, and we put this out there and they click on ClientWise, because you have a lot of resources out there. And it's if they're 5 to 10 years away from retirement, is there some place to go looking? Can we direct them? Versus if they're in that 5 years or less, is there a different resource at ClientWise to plug into?
Yeah, there would be. I would say just head to clientwise.com and just hit contact us, and one of the relationship managers at ClientWise can help Sherpa them into the right spot and do some of that fact finding and help them make those decisions, because there's some pretty good variables in there. Team, no team, time, less than 5, greater than 5, vision for the business and themselves. So Tyson, we can help certainly guide them through that. I would also say read chapter 4, my favorite chapter in my first book, You've Been Framed, which is called The Big Fat Lie. That's the title of the chapter. Sooner or later, the day will come. You do care about clients deeply. Make sure you're not living the big fat lie. Do something about it. And I would also say plug into my Building the $1 Billion Business podcast. I spent a fair amount of time thinking about the context of next generation leaders and how to develop others, not just to build enterprise value, but that could be something that folks can grab on the web. I publish a blog article every Friday morning called Best in the Business blog. And there's a whole lot of chock full free ideas embedded along with coaching questions in that publication. So Tuesday is the podcast that publishes, and Friday is the blog article that publishes every week.
Yeah, you and your team do an incredible job of creating content for advisors to really meet them where they're at and really help them grow and scale their business and kind of solve some of those problems they might have been avoiding. You put tools and resources right in their hands or right in their ears when it comes to the podcast. And so just thank you so much. This has been an incredible conversation, Ray. Thank you for sharing your expertise and being so generous with your time.
Sure. My pleasure. That went fast. That was a lot of fun. Thank you
I know,
all.
it was great.
Thanks for the good work you're doing too. It's making a difference in the financial advising space. And I know your book will have a big impact as well. So congratulations to you all.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ray. So that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back soon for more conversations like this.
These conversations are designed to support your next move, however close or far it may be. Tap subscribe and let each episode guide you closer to a confident, well-planned exit. I've wrestled with these things myself, and that's exactly why I created something to help you do it with less stress and more direction. My book, Total Succession, is now available on Amazon. Inside, I break the process down into 5 clear steps to help you exit on your terms with confidence, full compensation, and your client's best interests at heart. You can also visit totalsuccession.com/podcast to download a free starter guide that walks you through my SPACE framework: see, prepare, act, commit, exit. Remember, you only exit your business once. Create the space to do it well. Thanks for listening. Until next time.